This story is titled My Cheating Fiancé's Friends Physically Attacked Me After I Refused to Marry Her, so I pressed charges and sent them all to jail. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel's been losing a bit of traction lately, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome stories like this one. Your support means the world, so let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. So, throwaway account, because some of this stuff is still going through the legal system, and my main account would be pretty easy to identify. Honestly, this whole thing is insane, and I still have trouble believing it actually happened to me. What started as a normal engagement somehow ended with 3 people in state prison, 2 on probation, my ex facing jail time, and her lawyer boyfriend probably getting disbarred. Just typing that out feels surreal. Okay, so, some background because you need to understand how it all got here. I'm a 31-year-old guy, and I met my ex-fiancée, let's call her Katie, about 4 years ago at the sports bar I manage. Yeah, I know what you're probably thinking. Manager at a sports bar? Not exactly a fancy career. But honestly, I love my job. I started out as a bartender right after college, with a business degree I never really used, LOL. I worked my way up, and now I run one of the most successful locations in our chain. We do great business, have amazing regulars, and my staff actually likes working here, which is rare in this industry. Katie, though, she was a super successful real estate agent. You know the type, the ones who post those humble brag updates like, just sold another $1 million property on LinkedIn every week. She came in one night with her group of high school friends, all of them crazy successful on paper. 2 lawyers, both corporate, a dermatologist, a finance exec who did something with hedge funds, IDK, what exactly, and a marketing director at some big tech company. They were celebrating one of their birthdays that night and spent something like $600 on drinks and appetizers. Katie kept coming back to the bar after that, usually during my shifts. We hit it off pretty fast. She loved that I could make her laugh, and I was honestly impressed by how driven she was. Her friends, though, looking back, there were definitely some red flags. They'd make these little comments about my job, stuff like, "Oh, it's so nice that you're happy where you are," or, "Have you ever thought about getting into corporate management?" But when you're falling for someone, you overlook that kind of stuff. You know? Things moved fast once we started dating. Like, fast. She was practically living at my place after 3 months, and by the 1-year mark, we officially moved in together. I had this nice 2-bedroom apartment in one of those modern buildings downtown. Nothing too fancy, but it had a doorman and security cameras, which, by the way, becomes really important later in this story. The apartment was in my name, since I had better credit and had already been in the building for a few years. Life was good for a while. Katie was killing it in real estate. She actually made more than double what I did, something her friends never let me forget, LOL. But despite that, we were happy. After a while, things at work really started looking up for me. I got promoted to general manager, and then the company put me in charge of training new managers at other locations. It felt like all my hard work was finally paying off. Our families got along great too. Her parents were this sweet older couple who treated me like a son, and my parents absolutely loved how ambitious she was. So last December, I decided it was time. I was going to propose. I planned this whole weekend trip to a mountain resort about 3 hours away. Had everything set up. A private dinner overlooking the lake, the ring hidden in the dessert. Yeah, kind of cheesy, I know. But Katie was always talking about wanting a story she could tell people. She said yes, obviously. We spent the entire weekend celebrating, dreaming, and starting to plan the wedding. We were aiming for October this year. Wanted to do it before it got too cold, but after the crazy summer wedding rush when everything gets super expensive. Katie's parents even offered to pay for most of it, which was incredibly generous of them. They dropped something like $40,000 in deposits. The venue, catering, flowers, all of it. And yeah, that becomes important later. That's about when things started getting weird. Katie's friend group suddenly had to be involved in every single decision about the wedding. And I mean every decision. The color scheme had to be approved by all of them. The menu needed to accommodate everyone's dietary preferences. The seating chart? Of course, they all needed to be at the best table. It was exhausting, and their little comments about my job got worse. They'd say stuff like, "Katie, are you sure you want the ceremony at 6 p.m.? Won't OP have to work?" Or, "Maybe we should go wedding dress shopping on a Tuesday. That's probably a slow night at a sports bar." Just these constant little digs, you know? But Katie never stood up for me. She'd either laugh it off, or worse, agree with them. Then I started noticing other changes. Katie was working later and later, always had these emergency showings that popped up at weird hours. She changed her phone password and started keeping it face down all the time. Classic cheating behavior, right? But I trusted her. Or maybe I was just stupid. Probably both. Now, at my bar, we have this regular customer. Let's call her Sarah. Not her real name, obviously. She comes in for trivia nights every Wednesday with her work friends. Been coming for years. Always tips well, never causes problems. She's one of those customers you're actually happy to see walk in, you know? She works in HR or something, super nice lady, probably mid-30s. But this particular Wednesday, Sarah's acting weird as hell. She keeps glancing at her phone, then at me, then back at her phone again. Between trivia rounds, she barely talks to her friends, which isn't like her at all. She's usually super competitive and totally into the game. Finally, during one of the breaks, she waves me over and asks if we can talk privately. I figure maybe there's an issue with one of the other customers or something work-related. We have this small office near the kitchen where I usually do paperwork, so I take her there. She looks really uncomfortable, like she's about to tell me someone died. I wasn't sure if I should tell you this. She starts fidgeting with her phone case, but I would want someone to tell me if it was my relationship. Turns out, Sarah's sister Jenny works at this super fancy salon downtown, the kind of place where a haircut costs more than my rent. That morning, Katie had come in for highlights. Apparently, she'd been going to Jenny for about a year, always booking appointments during my work hours. This time, though, Katie spent the entire appointment, we're talking like 2 hours, on the phone with someone she kept calling babe and baby. Jenny could hear everything, obviously. When you're doing someone's hair, you're right there. Katie was laughing, making plans for some weekend getaway, and talking about how her idiot fiancé, yeah, that would be me, would think she was at a real estate conference. I'm standing there trying to process this, right? Part of me wants to deny it. Maybe she was talking to a girlfriend? Some women call their friends babe, right? But Sarah wasn't done. She pulls out her phone and shows me an Instagram story her sister had sent her. It was from this fancy restaurant a couple towns over, some place called Leon or something pretentious like that. The story was posted by some random person celebrating their engagement. But in the background of their champagne toast photo, clear as day, there's Katie, cuddled up with some guy in an expensive suit. This was from the previous Friday, the night Katie told me she was having a girls' night with her friends. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the phone. The timestamp on the story was 9:47 p.m. At 9:52 p.m., Katie had sent me a selfie of her at home with face masks with her friends. She had literally staged a fake girls' night photo to cover her date. I didn't even know what to say. I just thanked Sarah. I mean, what else do you say to someone who just blew up your entire life? She apologized probably 20 times, saying she felt terrible. I told her she did the right thing, comped her group's tab for the night. My owner's cool about stuff like that, and went back to work. I still had about 5 hours left in my shift, just running on autopilot. My mind was racing the whole time. Instead of confronting Katie right away, I decided to do some digging. We had this shared iPad at home, mainly used for Netflix in bed. Katie had logged into her iCloud on it a few months back when her phone was getting repaired, and I guess she forgot about the iPad. That night after my shift, while she was supposedly sleeping at her friend's house, yeah, right, I opened it. And holy, there were hundreds of messages between her and her ex, Michael, fake name. This wasn't some random affair. They'd been hooking up at this fancy hotel near his office for months. Since February, the messages were graphic. I'll spare you the details, but it wasn't just about sex. They were making fun of me, planning their future together, and talking about how they'd do it right this time. And the worst part? All her friends knew. Every single one of those successful professionals was actively helping her cheat. The group chat was full of them, giving her advice on how to hide it better, making jokes about my job. At least Michael can afford a real restaurant, not just bar food. They even coached her on what to say if I ever got suspicious. They were actually telling her to wait until after the wedding to leave me, because she'd get more money in the divorce. I screenshotted everything, emailed it to myself, backed it up to Google Drive, even took pictures of the iPad screen with my phone, just in case anything got deleted. The messages went back months. Every girls' night, every work event, every real estate conference, she was with him. And her friends weren't just covering for her, they were actively helping plan these meetups. There was even a message from the night I proposed. While I was nervously waiting for our dinner reservation, practicing my speech in my head, she was texting him. "Don't worry, baby. This doesn't change anything. It's just business. You're the one I really love." I didn't sleep that night. Not a single minute. Just sat in our living room, reading through 4 months of lies, trying to figure out how someone could be that cruel. How do you sleep next to someone every night, plan a future with them, while you're actively plotting to destroy them? The next evening, when she came home from showing houses, another lie according to the messages, I was ready. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just handed her the iPad, open to her messages. So there I was, sitting in our living room when Katie came home around 7 p.m. She bounced in, all smiles, talking about how she showed 3 houses today. Narrator voice. She did not show any houses that day. I let her ramble for a minute while she put her stuff down. She even had the nerve to ask what I wanted for dinner, like everything was normal. I'd spent the whole day rehearsing what I was going to say, but when the moment came, I couldn't even get the words out. I just handed her the iPad, already open to her conversation with Michael. She tried playing it cool for maybe 2 seconds, going, "What am I supposed to be looking at?" Then she saw the date on the messages, and literally dropped the iPad on the coffee table. You ever see someone's face just change like their whole mask drops? That's exactly what happened. She went from confused to panicked to furious in about 5 seconds flat. Then she started screaming. Not apologizing, screaming. About how I invaded her privacy and had no right to look at her messages. Like, seriously? That's what you're worried about right now? I stayed quiet. Thank God for bartender experience and learning to keep your cool. I just kept scrolling through the messages while she freaked out. Then I got to the ones from the night I proposed. Handed her the iPad again and read that one out loud. She didn't even try to deny it anymore. She started crying instead, but not sorry crying. This was full-on manipulation crying, the kind where they're trying to make you feel bad for catching them. She kept saying it was just a mistake, that it didn't mean anything, and how Michael was her past but I was her future. Spoiler alert, according to the messages, I was her meal ticket until she could divorce me for more money. And here's the best part. She actually tried to blame me. Said I was emotionally unavailable because I work nights at the bar. Said she was lonely and that Michael understood her better because they came from similar backgrounds. Then she dropped this gem. If you hadn't gone through my private messages, we could have been happy. That's when I finally lost my cool a bit. Not yelling, but definitely not calm anymore. I asked her if we could have been happy while she was letting her friends plan our wedding and her divorce at the same time. I asked how many of our special moments she'd ruined by texting him right after. Our engagement, holidays, birthdays. There were messages to him within hours of every single one. She switched tactics fast, faster than a politician during election season. Suddenly it was all about, but the wedding deposits. My parents already paid for everything. What will people think? Not one word about being sorry. Not one about actually loving me. Just money and appearances. I told her the wedding was obviously off and that she had 30 days to move out. Made sure to say, as per our state's tenant laws, because I'd Googled that stuff earlier in the day. Even though she wasn't on the lease, she'd lived there long enough to have tenant rights. I was pissed, not stupid. That's when she pulled out her phone. I figured she was calling her mom or something. Nope. She was texting the group chat. Remember those successful professional friends? Yeah, she was calling in the cavalry. You're going to regret this, she said, typing away. You have no idea who you're messing with. I actually laughed. Like, what is this, a bad mob movie? I told her she had 30 days to get her stuff and get out. That I was staying at my buddy's place that night to give her space to pack if she wanted to start now. I started packing a bag, just some clothes, stuff for work the next day. She was still typing on her phone, crying, but also kind of smirking. That should have been my first warning that something was really wrong. I was almost to the door when she said, "They're already on their way. You should wait to hear their side of this." Now, I'm not a small guy. I work at a bar. I know how to handle myself if things get rowdy. But something in her tone made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. So I decided to start recording on my phone, just in case. Thank God I did. I'd made it about halfway to my car when I saw them pull into the parking lot. all 5 of her friends in 2 separate cars. The 2 lawyers, the finance executive, the doctor, and the marketing director. They weren't dressed for work anymore. Looked like they'd all come straight from the gym or something. And they did not look happy, so I'm standing in the parking lot. 5 angry women are getting out of their cars. Katie's watching from our apartment balcony. My phone is recording in my pocket. Thank God I made that decision. I'm just trying to figure out whether I should go back inside or try to get to my car. Before I can decide, Hannah, the finance exec, starts screaming. She's yelling that I'm an abusive piece of... and that they're not going to let me hurt Katie anymore. Like, what? The other 4 start spreading out around me, and that's when I realize they're trying to block my path. Both to my car and the building entrance. Rachel, lawyer number 1, pulls out her phone and starts recording, saying really loudly, "We're just here to help Katie get her things safely. No one wants any violence." Meanwhile, Jessica, lawyer number 2, is texting something, grinning like this is all some kind of big joke. Then there's Maria, the doctor, and Ashley, the marketing director, both standing there trying to look tough, but you can tell they're nervous. I keep my voice calm. Hands up where they can see them. And I say, "I've given Katie 30 days notice as required by law. I'm leaving for the night to give her space to pack. Please don't make this situation worse." That's when Hannah gets right in my face. She's screaming about how they know all about my abuse, how they're not letting Katie stay another night with a monster like me. I'm literally backing away, still with my hands up, saying, "There are security cameras everywhere, and I'm recording this. Please just let me leave." Looking back, mentioning the recording was my biggest mistake. Rachel immediately shouts, "He's threatening to release private recordings of Katie. Get his phone." And that's when everything goes completely insane. Hannah lunges for my jacket pocket, the one with my phone. I turn away, trying to keep her off me, but Jessica grabs me from behind, like full-on tackles me. I'm 6'1", and she's maybe 5'4", but she played rugby in college, found that out during the trial, and she knew exactly what she was doing. Next thing I know, I'm on the ground. Jessica's trying to pin me in some kind of hold. Hannah's kicking me. Rachel's still recording everything, yelling, "Stop resisting! Why are you fighting back?" Maria and Ashley are just standing there, worried, looking terrified, but doing nothing to help. I'm trying my hardest not to fight back, because I know how this looks. Big guy versus smaller women. I'm just trying to protect my head, trying not to hurt anyone. And that's when Katie comes running out of the apartment, with our kitchen knife set. Not just one knife, the whole wooden block. I still get shaky thinking about it. She's screaming something about how I need to learn my lesson and starts handing out knives to her friends. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I started panicking. Jessica still has me in this hold. Hannah's kicking me. And now they've got knives. I somehow managed to get one arm free, pull out my phone, and hit the emergency SOS button, that iPhone feature where you click the power button 5 times fast. It automatically calls 911. I start yelling, "Police are coming!" as loud as I can, hoping someone in the building hears me. Rachel, they still recording, then shouts, "No one will believe you." And then, Jesus, Hannah stabs me. Actually stabs me, in the arm. Not deep. I jerked away just in time, but deep enough to need 12 stitches later. There's blood everywhere. I guess that freaked out Maria and Ashley because they started backing away. The next minute or two is a total blur. I remember Katie screaming, "Finish it!" from somewhere behind me. I remember Hannah trying to stab me again, while Jessica's yelling, "Hold him still!" Then sirens. Lots of them. Suddenly, the parking lot's full of cop cars. Thank God one of my neighbors saw what was happening and also called 911, so the cops already knew it was serious. They show up with guns drawn, ordering everyone to drop their weapons. Hannah and Jessica try to run, but don't make it far. Rachel's still recording, refusing to drop her phone until a cop literally tackles her. And the best part? Katie's standing there, holding the knife block, screaming about how I attacked them, and they were just defending themselves. Meanwhile, I'm bleeding all over the parking lot, clearly not fighting back, and everything's being recorded. My phone, the building's security cameras, and Rachel's dumbass live stream. The next few hours are a blur. Ambulance ride, emergency room, police interviews, lots of photos of my injuries. Turns out, besides the stab wound, I had 2 broken ribs, a concussion, and basically looked like I'd gone 10 rounds with a UFC fighter. But here's the real kicker. While I was in the ER, those idiots were at the police station, literally arguing with the cops about getting their phones back, because they wanted to delete some personal stuff. Rachel, yes, a box lawyer, actually said, "If you look at our group chat, it will be misinterpreted." The next few days after the attack were absolutely insane. I spent that first night in the ER getting stitched up and treated. Pro tip: when the nurse asks your pain level and you say like a 4 or 5 while you've got broken ribs, they just assume you're being a tough guy and give you the good painkillers anyway. LOL. While I was getting patched up, this victim advocate from the DA's office showed up. She started explaining all the legal stuff, but I was high as a kite on whatever they gave me for pain. The one thing I remember clearly, her saying, "This is the most clear-cut case of premeditated assault I've seen in years." She had no idea how right she was. Meanwhile, Katie and her psycho squad were having their own fun night at county jail. Found out later they were all put in separate cells because they wouldn't stop trying to coordinate their stories. Rachel, lawyer number 1, kept demanding her one phone call like she was in some TV show. Jessica, lawyer number 2, tried pulling the "Do you know who I am?" card. And Hannah, the one who stabbed me, apparently had a full meltdown when they took her designer jacket as evidence. Because it had my blood on it. My blood on it. Here's where it gets good. Remember how I mentioned Rachel was recording everything? Yeah, turns out she wasn't just recording. She was live streaming. She was actually broadcasting the whole thing to their private Instagram group. So when the cops got a warrant for all their phones and social media accounts, they found everything. Not just the attack, but months of them planning it. The group chat was a goldmine. These so-called sophisticated professionals had literally written out their plan, step by step. Wait for Katie to provoke me into getting mad. Record me being abusive or aka defending myself. Edit the videos to make me look bad. File false domestic violence charges. Get me arrested. Get me evicted from my own apartment. Then, help Katie move in with Michael, her ex, while I was in jail. Wait for the wedding date to pass. Have Katie file for divorce, claim emotional distress, and use the edited videos to get a bigger settlement. They had it all planned out, like some kind of psycho PowerPoint presentation. There were even messages discussing camera angles and who would play which role, like it was some kind of performance. And the best part? They were using their work phones. These geniuses actually used their corporate phones to plan an assault. But wait, it gets even better. 2 days after the attack, and while I'm still in the hospital, Katie shows up at my workplace. She starts telling my staff and customers that I'm abusive, that I attacked her friends, that everyone needs to know the truth about me. My assistant manager, shout out to Dave, you're a real one, caught everything on security cameras and called the cops. She did this 3 more times before they finally arrested her for violating the emergency restraining order that had been put in place. Each time she'd bring a different friend, Maria or Ashley, the 2 who weren't in jail, to witness her little performance. They filmed it too, probably thinking they were collecting evidence. Spoiler alert, those videos ended up being used against them instead. Then Michael, remember him? The lawyer boyfriend? Gets involved. This genius starts sending threatening emails to me and the cops who arrested his girlfriend's friends. We're talking full-on movie villain stuff. Messages like, "You don't know who you're dealing with. I have friends in the DA's office. This will all go away if you drop the charges." And get this, he sent those from his law firm email. A licensed attorney threatening a victim and law enforcement from his verified work address. The DA's office was practically salivating when they got their hands on those. About a week after the attack, their high-powered defense attorneys showed up for the bail hearing, looking like they'd just stepped off the set of a legal drama. All confident, all smug, going on about their clients' stellar reputations and community standing. The judge, older guy, looked half asleep through their entire speech, just sat there quietly. Then the prosecutor stood up and started dropping bombs, full security footage from multiple building cameras, my phone recording, Rachel's live stream, the group chat messages, screenshots of them Googling things like how to make self-defense look real and what happens if you stab someone in self-defense. Then came the threats from Michael, Katie's harassment at my job, my medical records showing only defensive wounds, witness statements from neighbors, the knife piece with Hannah's fingerprints and my DNA, the judge's face, OMG. He went from sleepy grandpa to stone-cold fury in about 2 seconds. He set their bail at $500,000 each. Hannah, Jessica, and Rachel all had to surrender their passports and wear ankle monitors because they were considered flight risks. Apparently, they had international accounts and properties. Maria and Ashley, the ones who didn't physically participate in the attack, got lesser charges and lower bail, but they still had to wear monitors. Katie was hit with conspiracy charges and also had to surrender her passport. But the real bombshell dropped about 2 weeks later. Ashley's, who had been spiraling ever since the attack, finally cracked. Her lawyer reached out to the DA's office saying she wanted to make a deal. Turns out she had another group chat, one the others didn't even know about, where they'd been even more explicit about their plans. She had voice messages from Katie talking about how they'd practiced the attack at Maria's home gym. Videos of them discussing how to make it look like self-defense. Messages about how they'd chosen my apartment specifically because they knew where the security cameras were and thought they could use that footage to their advantage. And the best part? She had a video of them all celebrating at a wine bar after Katie got engaged, planning how they'd help her get a better divorce settlement by setting me up. This was from the night I proposed. While I was texting our families the happy news, they were literally planning how to destroy my life. The trial started that November, about 7 months after the attack. Those months were rough. Katie and her 2 friends who weren't in jail, Maria and Ashley, kept trying to spread lies about me around town. They made fake social media accounts to post edited clips from the attack. They tried contacting my employees to dig up dirt. They even showed up at my parents' house to tell their side of the story. My lawyer, appointed by the DA's office since this was a criminal case, was this tiny woman in her 50s who looked like everyone's favorite aunt. But in court, she was terrifying. The first thing she told me was simple: document everything. Don't respond to any attempts at contact. So I did, every fake account, every harassment attempt, every lie. All of it went into a folder that only made their case look worse. The trial itself was surreal. Their defense strategy? Interesting, to say the least. They tried claiming they were protecting Katie from an abusive relationship, despite, you guessed it, zero evidence of abuse. They claimed they acted in self-defense, even though they were the ones who showed up with knives to attack me. Their lawyers tried everything to make me look like the bad guy, this supposedly violent, controlling boyfriend, all because I, checks notes, caught their client cheating and asked her to move out. Like, what? I had to testify for 2 full days. 2 days of sitting there while their lawyers tried every trick in the book to get me to lose my temper. They called me a liar, suggested I was the real abuser. They even hinted that I was homophobic just because I didn't want Katie hanging out alone with her friends, you know, the same friends she was cheating on me with. But if there's one thing bartending teaches you, it's how to stay calm when people are being complete idiots. So I just kept telling the truth. The prosecution's case, though, it was beautiful. They had this massive TV screen set up in the courtroom and played everything in perfect order. You could have sworn it was a Netflix documentary. Security footage of them arriving at my apartment spreading out to corner me. My phone recording of them attacking me. Rachel's live stream showing them with the knives. Building cameras catching every angle. Police body cam footage from their arrests. Videos of Katie harassing me at work. Screenshots of the group chats where they planned everything. Michael's threatening emails. Photos of my injuries. The knife with Hannah's fingerprints and my blood on it. But the real star, the one who sealed it all, was Ashley. She'd taken a plea deal, which turned out to be a very smart move, and she laid everything bare. She told the jury how they'd been planning this for months. How Katie had been cheating on me long before the engagement, but waited until after the wedding because she thought she'd get more money in a divorce. How they actually practiced the attack at Maria's gym. Planned how to make it look like self-defense. The jury's faces during her testimony were priceless. You could see it click. These weren't just a few friends who'd gone too far trying to protect their girl. This was a cold, calculated setup. A plan to frame me, get me arrested, and help Katie scam her way into a bigger payday. Then came Katie's turn to testify. Oh man, what a disaster. She took the stand to defend her friends. Big mistake. The prosecutor basically let her talk herself straight into a confession. She started out all tearful, acting scared of me, claiming she was trapped in some abusive relationship, despite zero evidence and the fact that she lived with me voluntarily. Then, as soon as they started showing her messages about planning the attack, she snapped. She started yelling, actually yelling, about how I deserved it for going through her iPad. And the worst part? She accidentally blurted out that Michael, her lawyer boyfriend, had helped her write the fake police report accusing me of abuse. On the stand, under oath, the prosecutor's face lit up like it was Christmas morning. From there, their entire defense just fell apart. The jury only needed 6 hours to come back with a verdict: guilty. Hannah, Jessica, and Rachel, the Stabby Squad, as the internet later called them, were convicted of attempted aggravated assault, conspiracy, and a bunch of other charges. Maria got convicted of conspiracy and accessory charges. Ashley's plea deal got her just probation since she cooperated. The sentencing hearing was something else. The judge was furious. He called it one of the most calculated and malicious cases he'd seen in 30 years. Said the fact that they were all professionals made it even worse, because they knew better. Final sentences: Hannah, Stabby McStabberson, 36 months in state prison, no parole for 24, plus 5 years of probation. Jessica, the rugby tackle lawyer, same as Hannah. Rachel, the live stream genius, and same as Hannah. Maria, the nervous doctor, 18 months probation, 300 hours of community service. Ashley, the only one who came clean, 12 months probation for testifying against the rest. Katie's still waiting for her separate trial, though word is she already took a plea deal. More on that in the final chapter. And Michael, oh boy, you'll want to sit down for what happened to him. All of them lost their professional licenses. The lawyers were disbarred, obviously. The doctor lost her medical license. The finance exec had all her certifications revoked. Their high-paying, polished careers? Gone. Their reputations? Destroyed. Their freedom? Gone for 3 years. I'll post another update if anything else happens. Thanks again for all your support, your help, and your comments. You all kept me sane through the worst months of my life.